first one was Angela, no, Dickens. Do you remember her?
Oh, yeah.
She was in that detective thing. She was the first white woman to start with all of the throwing around and detective thing. That was in TV. It graduated to motion films with Sigourney Weaver. She was the first of her generation to be the heroic woman who could fight, who was brave and wasn't scared, and all of those things. And look at the guy that was in. By the way, do you know in Alien, the first Alien that she was in, the black guy that was in that, he, by the way, knew he was an Israelite. He's not African, he's American.
Yeah, but I knew his name.
Yeah,
I see his face now, but I remember his name.
But I think if it was a big black guy, if you called him African, I think he'd be jumping and telling you African.
Right.
But he definitely, he used to say years ago, and look how long ago that was. He'd say years ago. Let's say where you're from. He said, I'm an Israelite. Years. I remember the first time I heard it, my ears pricked up. And even back then, he was saying it. He's the black guy in the first Alien movie with Sigourney Weaver, and he gets killed out in that. And this little woman, she was able to fight this super duper alien force and beat him. What?
Are you talking about when there was the Marines on the ship? And you talking about, how are we supposed to kill them?
Yeah, that's the second one. That's the second one. That's the second one. All right, we're going to get into the lesson. Where were we? Where did we cut off last week? Yes.
Last verse you read was Genesis 15 and 16.
Oh, very good. Well, let's go there, if you please. Now.
You didn't end up there.
Yes.
You ended up in 16.
Verse 16, but the last verse you read was in 15.
Yes. So we're going to read. What verse did we end up at?
16. We started 16. We finished all of 20. We finished 21. And we started 16. You said we're going to start.
Chapter what?
You made it all the way to the end.
Chapter 15.
Yeah. 21 is the last one.
Yeah, you made it all the way to the end.
Yes, I did. So what we're going to do, just to keep in pace with others who have been following, so that we don't lose track, we're going to start at Genesis chapter 15 and verse 18. We'll flow swiftly into. I'm going to skip some chapters because some chapters I need to attack. So what I want us to do, if you please, and I'm going to lift excerpts in this particular case. So please, for those of you that are watching, I want to say, first of all, grace and peace to all of you who have taken the time to watch this particular teaching that we're covering in the book of Genesis, referring to our forefather Adam and Sarai, who became the father of all nations and the mother of all nations. Now, we're going to cover verse 18, and we'll go from there. Let's read.
The book of Genesis 15 and 18. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram.
Now notice, the same day the Most High God made a covenant with Abraham. Go on.
Saying, unto thy seed have I given this.
Stop. That's why you need to always, whenever you come across the word seed, you must underline it or circle it. All right? Now, also bear this in mind. Everywhere that you see the word capital L, capital O, R, D, that is a replacement word. I've taught this before. Some of you are very familiar with it. But when it says, in the same day, the Lord, in the original transcript, it doesn't say Lord. It actually says his name. Because our people, even back then, knew the name of the Lord, Yahweh. We knew our Father's name. And the only ones who knew it was Israel. No other nation knew it. It was unknown to them, but to us, we knew it. All right? And so, when we, and by the way, when you read the word angel of the Lord, angel of Yahweh, that usually is referring to whom the world has come to know as Jesus, whom we call Yahushua. So keep that in mind. Because sometimes when you read it, you keep reading Lord, 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 and it said, and this is my name. And then it says the Lord. A Lord is not a name. It's a title. And it's a title that means ownership. So when you read the word Lord, it's always denoting ownership. That's why in Britain, we have a place that is called the House of Lords. Because all of the landowners go there and they conference there because they own the land and they can draw up laws and statutes as they choose. So when we read here now, it says, and the same day, Yahweh, or the Most High, made a covenant with Abraham. And it's important to understand that, because then you'll understand that this covenant that we live in is only meant for one nation and one nation alone. It's not made for everyone, as we have been made to believe. And then it says, unto thy seed. It doesn't say to everyone else. It's just thy seed. And then it says, have given this land. So the land has been given to the seed of Abraham. Con? Now, some of you who are advanced, you'll be thinking, well, if this is only for the children of Israel, how does Abraham become a part of it if he's the father? And yet he's not called like a name like whether he be Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Issachar. If he's not called any of that, where is his name going to be if he's going to walk through the gates of the 12 gates of the city? How will that happen for him? So that's why the scripture says, great is the mystery of godliness without controversy. There's a mystery there, but the mystery, as we read in Matthew, it says, it's only given to you, Israel, only to you, not given to everyone. And so here we read where it says, read on now, sir.
From the river of Egypt.
I would like you to read where it says, unto thy seed.
Unto thy seed have I given this land.
Read.
From the river of Egypt.
Now that's why I want to get it. Because it said, from the river of Egypt, go on.
Unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
Now why is that so important? Because if you looked at a proper map, then you'd begin to see that the location that they're fighting about today, that's small. That's minute. But when you look at from the river Euphrates all the way up to Egypt, it's now vast. That's a vast piece of land it's now speaking about. And why is that so important? Because the Most High God knew that the seed of Abraham would be so great, they need vastness for the land to hold them. Now remember, he's coming back. We're in the age that he's going to come back. And remember, only 1/3 of us are going to make it into that. Remember, 2/3 are going to be destroyed. So are you telling me then that 1/3 is going to be so much that to go into that, the 1/3 is still going to be numerous. But bear in mind that 1/3 is the 1/3 based in right here with us in the Americas and the Caribbean. Because most of the 12 tribes are in this part of the world, according to Bible prophecy. Then, yes, we're scattered throughout all of the world. Yes, we are. But remember, he brought us as slaves all the way from the Africas. Now, how do we know that? Because remember, all you've got to do is tap into the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress, right? LOC. And go to the cartographer's page that shows the maps. On the map, highlighted, and it will shoot up an imagery of the west coast of Africa. And there you will see a section that says slave land. Slave land. And then when you re-examine it and you blow it up even bigger, right above it, it has the kingdom of Judah. Right there. See, it's now remember they've changed the maps because they're trying to hide your history from you. They're trying to hide where you are from, so you don't know where you're from.
Right.
But right there in the maps, it says clearly. And why does it say the slave coast? Because that slave coast is where we were transported and taken from the Africas over to the Americas and the Caribbean. That's why we are who we are. That's why we know who we are. And that's why it is impossible for us to be anti-Semite. Because we are Shem.
Right.
We have the blood of Shem running through us. Khan, El-Faxad, Lud, and all of the 5 sons of Shem, we have their blood running through us. Khan. And so when we read here, then it says, 19, read for me please.
The Kenites, and the Kenizzites, and the Kadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites.
Right, now the Hittites are the ones, these are the Africans who invented iron. When we were at school, they taught us about the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and so on and so on and so on. Now, notice, nowhere is it ever spoken about the Stone Age with black men. You won't find it. Stone Age is only used for Neanderthals. Neanderthals are those who are of Caucasoid bloodline. And you want to say you are of the royal bloodline of the Most High? Get out of here. This makes it very clear that the Hittites, these were Africans. They ushered in what's called the Iron Age, but we won't get into that. Then we have the Rephaims, right? After the Perizzites and the Rephaim, these were the Africans who were giants, great men of stature. I'm saying huge men. And they walked the earth thundered with their walking. Now I'm not talking about no 50-foot tall giant. I'm not talking about that's all fairy tale nonsense, mythology. We're talking men of great stature, men that could stand up to 12 to 15 feet in height. But watch this. But when we read, it says
21. And the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
Now the Canaanites and the Jebusites are two very important because the land Canaan is what was promised to us. That's why I'm doing it this way. Then it speaks about the Jebusites. Jebusites, they're the ones who once occupied the city and the land that is called it's called Jerusalem. Jebusites, Jeru. Again, we won't go into the etymology of all that tonight because we've still got a long way to go. But now we're just going to read the first, let's see, 3 verses of chapter 16. Let's read.
Yes, Genesis 16:1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children.
Read it again.
And Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children.
Good.
And she had in handmaid an Egyptian whose name was Hagar.
Go on.
And Sarah said unto Abraham, Behold now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid, it may be that I may obtain children by her.
Which it was her right as the chief wife and as the wife, the first wife of Abram. She has the right to do that. She can offer her handmaiden to her husband if she chooses. Con? But watch this.
And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah.
Go on.
And Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian. After Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abraham, to be his wife.
All right. So now we see that she has a wife, or he has another wife. And why does it say that Hagar became his wife? Because we have to understand that. Because if you don't understand that part, you make stuff up. The reason why she became his wife was because of the law. She was an untouched woman. She was a princess from the house of Pharaoh. Untouched, unblemished. All right, her flower was still intact. Now, Abraham breaks that flower by way of having relations with her. That now automatically makes her his wife. You see, back in the old days, having relationship, let me put it plainly, since there's no children around tonight, having sex with a woman made the woman your wife, if she was a virgin, as we call it today, or in the Bible times, a maiden. See? So to have sex, that means that she is yours. Why? Because the blood that is released from her gives covenant to the man. See? That blood release is a covenant. You're tied together by blood. And remember, all covenants are made by blood. Our law. Con? And so that's why she became automatically his wife. And notice, Sarai knew this. She wasn't going to argue that. So when now she became his wife, she was open to certain privileges. Certain privileges, notice, because she was still a slave. Now watch this now. When we read on now, read verse 4.
Verse 4, and he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes.
Now she started to look at her mistress, which was Sarai now, looking at her with a vicious spirit, meaning, I am younger than you, and I have brought life into this world, and you haven't. And you know, well, you know how you women can be. You know. And so this brought an anxious and angry spirit to Sarai. And so Sarai now, read.
And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee.
So she knew now she was wrong, but it was still the will of the Most High God that this happens. There's a reason for that. We'll explain that in a moment. Read.
I have given my maid into thy bosom.
Read.
And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes.
Go on.
The Lord judge between me and thee.
Now, she was trying to bring Abram now into her problem. He don't want it. So read.
But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hand.
So that's your problem. That's not mine. Right? In fact, I'm only with her because you told me to. But read.
Do to her as it pleases thee.
See? In other words, she could have, Sarai had the right to take her life if she wanted to. She had the right to if she chose to. But that was not the nature of Sarai. But read.
And Sarah dealt hardly with her. She fled from her face.
Go on.
And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness.
Now, because Sarai beat her and made her task even more strenuous, she chose to run away. In her running away, she was in an act of disobedience. Now, the Most High sends an angel to her. But watch this now. Read.
And the angel of the Lord found her by the fountain of water.
And notice it says the angel of the Lord. Right? Now, again, forgive me. Again, I'm trying to teach and go backwards and forwards. I want to jump back up to chapter 15 and verse 18. Read.
Genesis 15 and 18. In the same day, the Lord made a covenant.
Stop. So notice it says the Lord. The Lord. Right? Right? Now go back down to chapter 16 and 7. Read.
Chapter 16 and 7. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water.
So it says the angel of the Lord, right? Is that what it says? Come on, talk to me. All right, so hold that. Run to Genesis chapter 21 and 17 real quick. Genesis chapter, what did I say?
21 and 17, it reads, And Yahweh heard the voice of the land, and the angel of Yahweh called to Hagar out of heaven.
So here we see the same thing is happening again, right? Read it again, sir.
And God heard the voice of the land.
Go on.
And the angel of Yahweh called to Hagar
So the Most High heard the voice of the lad. The angel of the Lord now turns up. And remember, this is a theophany of, this is whom we call today Yahushai. Because that was one of his theophanies, his positions that he manifested to mankind with. Right? So, but he's called the angel of the Lord because he is over all angels. Read.
And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of Yahweh called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her.
All right, so what are you reading, sir?
17.
All right, very good.
What aileth thee, Hagar? Fear not, for Yahweh has heard the voice of the lad where he is.
All right, so let's drop that now. Let's go back. Now, when we read now, verse 7 again, 16 and 17 and 7.
And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water.
Found her by a fountain of water.
In the wilderness.
In the wilderness. Now, that is prophetic. Because they are found by a fountain of water. Now, time won't allow me to do it, but the future of this lad will be that there will be great waters that will surround him in his future. But not only that, and it says, in the wilderness, in a wilderness, in a desert place. Today, back then, well, not even today really, but one would say, well, what could he do in the desert, in the wilderness? Well, I share with you what he did in the wilderness in a moment. But read on. By
the fountain in the way of Shur.
Of Shur. Read on.
And he said, Hey, Sarah's maid, whence camest thou?
Read.
And whither will thou go?
Where you going to go? You got no plan here. Read.
And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarah.
Now, notice, the angel is speaking to her based upon the future of what's going to come from her. Not because of the woman herself, but because of the seed that is going to be in her. Why is that? Because the seed comes from Abraham. Now, what you have to understand, notice, his name is Abram, right, with that particular boy coming into the world. Not Abraham. Got that? All right. So now, when we read on, read.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress.
Do what?
Return to thy mistress.
Read.
And submit thyself under her hand.
Now, that again is prophetic to the boy seed that is in her. So now, the mother has to go back, humble herself, bow down, and submit herself and worship her. Whatever she tells you to do that. Gone?
Gone.
Now, remember now, whilst the child is in her, she's bowing down. Bowing down to the woman who will eventually produce seed, and from her seed will come the 12 tribes, and all nations will bow before the 12 tribes. You with me so far? So now when we read on that, read.
Verse 10. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly.
See that? Go on.
That it shall not be numbered for multitude.
So, the same blessing to some degree is given to this seed that is in her. That he is going to be multiplicit in terms of bringing forth men who are like him. Interesting. We'll see that in just a few verses. But read on.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son.
So she was told the sex of the child before the child was born. Because they didn't know. They didn't know. There was no X-ray machine. There was no way of using, what's the other machine that they use? Sonogram in that day. But read on.
Yes, sir. And shall call his name Ishmael.
Now, a name is given to him. And the name that's given to him is Ishmael. Now, the name is important because the name is what is going to aid him in the future. See, a lot of people miss that, you see. We just read in Genesis chapter 21 and 17. What did he say? He said, I heard the voice of the lad. Right? Did we not just read that? Right? Don't be still with me. Right? So, I heard the voice of the lad, but watch this now. His name shall be called Ishmael. The word Ishmael means God hears. Isn't that something? And so then when we read on now, read.
Because the Lord has heard thy affliction.
He heard thy affliction. But read on.
And he will be a wild man.
He will be what?
A wild man.
He will be a wild man. Read.
His hand will be against every man.
Read.
And every man's hands against him.
Against him. Now, that lets you know the future of those who are the Arabs, who, well, in America they say Arabs. No Arab, it's Arab. The Arab, they are the ones that in the world are afraid of. Why? Because they have unlimited wealth. Buy whatever they want, however they want. You don't believe me? If you were to take a trip, fly over to just a place called Dubai. Dubai, they built a city in the desert. These brothers, these Arab brothers. One is over Dubai and the other one is over Abu Dhabi. Now, they're rich, they're mega rich. They are the sons of Ishmael, right? And those sons have taken their wealth from they've assumed their wealth from the original Arabs. The original Arabs look like this. The new Arabs are less melanated, more brighter in their skin. In fact, they almost look like Caucasian men. They don't like you calling them that. But that was because of the Turks' invasion, the Turkish invasion. They mixed themselves with them. How is that? How so was that, Pastor Doctor? Well, remember, the same way as our Ishika brothers, our Mexican brothers, let's go by their ancient names. Our Aztec brothers, our Mayan brothers, and what's the third one?
Incas.
The Inca brothers. Those brothers who make up much of what we call South America, they were destroyed by way of they were being sexed and changed in terms of their appearance, and they became the bloodline of the conquistadors, which are Hispanics. Right? Now, there's a difference between Hispanics and Latino. Now, the reason why I find the word Latino ridiculous, and I don't mean to offend any of my Latino brothers, so if you're hearing me, please don't hold it to my heart, because I'm not trying to offend you. But what I want you to understand is this. The word Latin comes from the Roman word. You don't speak Latin. The white man gave that word to you because he was trying to separate and create division. That we are all the same. Our bloodline is all the same, except for yours now is a little bit more tarnished. That's it. But watch this. In the scriptures here, it said, and he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand will be against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of what?
Of all his brethren.
Of all his brethren. These brothers over in Dubai built themselves a sea. Oh yes, I'm saying it, a sea. They dug out for miles a region of miles. And then they pipelined from the ocean and brought in all of the wildlife of the sea came through this gigantic pipe, filling this great area and turned it into a sea. And it's real. It's real. It's not a lake. It's not a pond. I know what you're thinking. No, it's a sea that can take ocean-going boats and yachts and all of those things. Deep as well, in its deepest parts. They built that. That shows you the unimaginable wealth that they have, that they can dig a hole in the earth and fill it with seawater, and it becomes a sea that is seen from satellites and above. Oh yes. This is the type of wealth they have. And they built an entire city around it. A city that looks like a palm tree from the air. But on land, it looks like an oasis. Oh yes. Yeah. My eyes have behold it. It's a beautiful thing to see. It really is. But anyway, let's get back to this. But then it said, jump to 13 for me, because of time.
And she called the name of the Lord that spake unto her.
Read.
Thou Yahweh seeth me.
Go on.
For she said, have I also here looked after him?
Read.
That seeth me?
Read.
Wherefore the well was called Bir Laharoi.
Yes, Bilaharo, yeah.
Bir Laharoi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered.
Kadesh and Bered. Go on.
And Hagar bare Abram a son.
Read.
And Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael.
Now, why did anyway, that'll take up too much time, but read on.
And Abram was 86 old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram.
To what?
To Abram.
To
Abraham.
All right, go on.
Verse 17. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said unto him, I am the Almighty Yahweh.
I am who?
The Almighty Yahweh.
Go on.
Walk before me and be thou perfect.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? He was 90 years old, and the Most High said to him, this is the Father speaking now. Through one of his angels, he says, walk thou before me and be thou perfect, right? What does that mean? What does it mean? Yes, please.
He's not going to be complete and keep the law.
He's going to be what?
Complete and keep the law.
Excellent. He's now going to be complete, because the word perfect means complete, and he's going to keep the law. Make a note of that right there in that scripture. Run with me also, if you please, to Genesis chapter 26 and 5. Run there real quick. We're coming back. But just run there, 26 and 5, please.
That's the book of Genesis chapter 26 and 5. It reads, because that Abraham obeyed my voice.
Stop. Read it again.
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice.
See? Obedience to the word of God is important in an Israelite's life. You must obey his word. Yes, you may struggle and have challenges with it, etc., for whatever the reason. But here's the key. Obey, obey, obey. Read.
And kept my charge.
Stop. And here was the second part. He obeyed and he kept the charge that was placed on him. Read.
My commandments.
My commandments.
My statutes.
My statutes.
And my law.
And my laws. How many is that? Come on. It's right there in front of you. Count them up. How many is that? He obeyed, kept the charge, commandments, the statutes, and the laws. How many?
620.
No. Right here, how many is it? No? 5. Let's break it down. Read it again, Johanna.
Because that Abraham obeyed.
He did what?
Obeyed.
Obeyed what?
My voice.
He obeyed his voice. Number one, he obeyed his voice. And he had been doing that from the time that he appeared to him and said to him, Abraham, leave your father's home, leave your brethren, and leave your land. He obeyed. That was one of his great qualities. Number 2.
And kept my charge.
And kept his charge. Kept all of the charges. What are the charges? Let's read.
My commandments.
His commandments.
My statutes.
His statutes.
And my laws.
And his laws. 5. Now, the reason why we have to use the word charge there, because there's a whole lot more that's going to come in, and he was willing to do whatever he had to do to serve the Most High God. Make sense to you so far? Now, let's go back. Let's go back. Genesis chapter 17 and verse 1.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 17 and 1.
I need you to speed up the reading just a little bit, if you don't mind, because of time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And when Abram was 90 years old and 9,
Go on.
the Lord appeared to Abraham and said unto him, I am the Almighty Yahweh. Walk before me and be thou perfect.
And be what?
Be thou perfect.
Be thou perfect. So, how old was he at this point? It was 90?
99 years old.
All right, jump back to chapter 16 and 16. Read it for me, sir.
The book of Genesis 16 and 16. And Abraham was 86 years old.
So how old was he?
86.
86 when?
When Hagar bare Ishmael.
When Ishmael was born. So he was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Khan? I don't want you to miss these things because they're important down the road. If you miss it, when I try to bring you back to it, you'll forget it. Khan? So make a note there, right? Now, jump back down now and read where his age was in 17.
Yes, yes, sir. And
read 2. Just read 2. Keep going.
And I will make my covenant between me and thee.
Read.
And will multiply thee exceedingly.
Exceedingly. Go on.
And Abraham fell on his face, and Yahweh talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee.
Is what?
And my covenant is with thee.
The covenant is with no other nation. Now, why do I keep pushing that? Because remember, we're living in an age where people are telling you the covenant is for everybody. The covenant is with Abraham and to his seed. Oh, but Ishmael's his seed. Yeah, well, Ishmael gets a blessing of abundance, land, wealth. Today it's called oil, right? Read on.
And thou shalt be a father of many nations.
Of many nations. Go on.
Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram.
And now his name's going to be changed. See that? Go on.
But thy name shall be Abraham.
Shall be what?
Abraham.
Abraham, read.
For a father of many nations have I made thee.
Have I made thee. Go on.
And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful.
Make what?
Exceedingly fruitful.
Make you exceedingly fruitful. That means his seed is going to be abundant throughout the entire earth. Read.
And I will make nations of thee.
Make nations of thee. Go on.
And kings shall come out of thee.
Read.
And I will establish my covenant between me and thee.
So he says, I'm going to establish. Now the word establish must not be overlooked. It must not be overlooked. Go to Galatians chapter 3 and 17 real quick.
This is the book of Galatians 3 and 17.
Right, Galatians chapter 3 and 17, read.
And this I say, that the covenant.
That the what?
That the covenant.
Go on.
That was confirmed before of Yahweh.
That was what?
Confirmed before of Yahweh.
That was confirmed. Right? Wasn't a mistake. It was confirmed. Read.
Before of Yahweh in the Mashiach.
Go on.
The law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul.
Read.
That it should make the promise of non-effect.
So what is it saying? What is it saying? Very clear, very self-explanatory. So what is it saying? your hand up? Go ahead.
The law cannot be done away
Yes, the law could not be done away with, but what else is poignant here? Did you have your hand? Go ahead.
But because it's been so long and everything, that still do not make it of none effect. What he said way back then, it is still in effect now.
Right. So what was said then has not changed because of time. It is the same. That's why we know that what he said for his seed, it's forever. So don't no one try to introduce yourself into the bloodline because, well, it seems like a good time for me to. I'm going to now call myself a Christian, and now I'm going to be part of this. Hallelujah. No, that's not how it works. That's not what it works. You see? And so he says, back to Genesis chapter 17 and 7, read.
17 is 17. I was talking 17.
Genesis chapter 17 and 7.
Okay. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 17 and 7.
Read.
It reads, "And I will establish my covenant between me and thee."
So it makes it personal. This is between you and me, son.
Come.
You know, there's no one else here. This is you and me. Read.
"And thy seed."
And all that is within you. All the seed that is in you, I'm going to transfer those seeds to all of your generations. That covenant will be upon all of them. Oh, it's mind-blowing. But read.
"And thy seed after thee in their generation."
See? And he says it again. And thy seed after thee and their generation, go on.
"For an everlasting covenant."
An everlasting covenant. Why does the word everlasting come? Why is it used? Can anyone tell me? Yes, sir.
That's another word for eternal.
No, sir. You're on the right track. But eternal and everlasting are really two different words. Similar, but different. Yes, please. Has no end. There's no end to it. There's no end to it. But here's a good proviso. He's the everlasting God. Right? Yahweh Shai. He's the everlasting God. But his Father is the eternal God. Everlasting has a beginning. That's why he said, I will establish my covenant. So there was a beginning. It had to start somewhere. But then it has no end to it. You see, the angels are everlasting. They all have a beginning, but they have no end. But our Father, Abba Yah, he is the eternal God. He had no beginning. He had no beginning. And he has no end. And that's why it's hard for the world, because it's become so white supremacist, that a black God had no beginning, no end. You see, when the scholars discovered that, they said, we have to change this theology. Theology. This God knowledge. We have to change this theology. Theo meaning God. Knowledge. We have to change it. We have to get me Leonardo. Get me Michelangelo. I want them to paint me a mural in the Sistine Chapel, and I want to show God the Father like us, and show his Son like us, and show them pointing together in their unity like us. Do not show anything from the past that was before the Renaissance, or the Renaissance, if you might call it. Do not bring that in, because if you bring it in, we have to then expose the fact that we knew that he was black before. Do not do that. So now in the Sistine Chapel and all over the world, they have all of these different murals showing the Father as a Caucasian man, because we know that the Father has no beginning and a black man can't have that power. And so everything that you have been taught from school, some of you began life in Roman Catholic schools. It's all been a lie for white supremacists. And so when we look at our father Abraham, watch this now. Read so.
Yes, sir. For an everlasting covenant to be a God unto thee.
Unto who?
Unto thee.
See, only unto him. That means that somehow Abraham has to be worked in to become part of the 12 tribes. That's why we understand the teaching of regeneration. See that?
Oh, that's crazy.
And so, no, don't make me laugh. I'm going to stay serious. Right, read on, sir.
And to thy seed after thee.
After thee. Read.
And I will give unto thee, and to thy seed after thee,
Read.
the land wherein thou art a stranger.
Where we are strangers. This is Canaan land. We call it Beulah land. Read.
All the land of Canaan.
Read.
For an everlasting possession, and I will be their God.
An everlasting possession. That means even though we are not in it, because it was spoken by the Most High God, his word cannot go back unto him void. Because once he has spoken it, it stays there and it has to complete itself. That's why we cannot be destroyed. That's why, remember, it was spoken unto us when we were born, our forefathers were born, which was Jacob and Esau. But it said that Jacob will be stronger than Esau. Meaning, no matter how much the nations try to kill us, destroy us, we will always come back. That's why going all the way back through the 7 different superpowers that had us in captivity, from the Egyptians all the way down to the Babylonians, the Assyrians, Persians, Medes, and the Romans, the Greeks, the Romans, and back into America now. All of them had us in captivity, tried to destroy us, but guess what? We're still here.
That's right.
Most High God just been regenerating us, regenerating us, regenerating us, because his word was spoken and we cannot be destroyed. It's powerful. And you belong to the bloodline like this. You've been letting people take that away from you, changing your mindset, making you see white gods all over the place in every chapel you go to in the world. When really, he's a black God, black man, and he has a son who is his extension, and we are made in the image of his son. That's why he calls us his firstborn. We're just like his son. Sha. Woo! Oh, I mean, Barakathiah, Hawa. This thing will get me going. And so when we read now at verse 9, read.
And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generation.
Read.
This is my covenant.
This is what?
My covenant.
Read.
Which ye shall keep between me and you,
read,
and thy seed after thee.
Read.
Every man child among you shall be circumcised.
Every one of our bloodline shows the scar of circumcision. Abba Yah. Read.
And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin.
Read.
And it shall be a token for the covenant betwixt me and you.
Read.
And And he that is 8 days old
8 days, because the blood coagulates on the 8th day, meaning there will not be excessive bleeding when it is done. Go on.
shall be circumcised among you.
Read.
Every man child in your generation, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger,
Read.
which is not of thy seed,
Which is what?
is not of thy seed.
Jump across. Now, oh, no, finish it. Finish it.
That's the end of 12.
12. All right. 13, please.
He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be extra circumcised.
Read.
And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant.
That means that everyone who becomes a servant in our house, in the kingdom age, all of the nations who will serve us and work in our house, work in our vineyards, work in our fields, those who are going to be building our summer homes, wherever they will be, they all have to be circumcised. All of them. Isn't that something? Because if they're not circumcised, they are unclean. We cannot have anything unclean before the children of the Most High God. Jump over to verse 19 for me, please.
Verse 19. And Yahweh said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed,
So that's prophecy. Go on.
and thou shalt call his name Isaac.
Read.
And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
Now, why is he called Isaac? Because of the word. What does Isaac mean? What does it mean?
Laughter.
It means laughter. Now, who laughed?
Sarah.
All right. Jump back, sir, read verse 17.
Verse 17. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed.
Read it again.
Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed.
He fell upon his face and laughed. All right, but just before read 16.
And I will bless her and give thee a son, also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her.
Read.
Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed.
He fell down with, Lord, do you know what you're saying here? You know, my wife's a good-looking woman, but those days are past, Lord. Abba, those days are past. Is anything too hard for the Lord? And then he says, because the child shall be born through them. Read verse 18, sir.
And Abraham said unto Yahweh, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee.
And that is not what the Lord God wants. He doesn't want that. But read.
And Yahweh said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed.
Indeed, meaning I've said it. It will happen. Read.
And thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him.
Read.
For an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him.
So you see now that it was Abraham who laughed first. That's where the name was established. And remember, his wife laughed second. That brought covenants. Because two people who do the same, they're in agreement. Well done. They're in agreement. Now watch this now. How am I doing for time? Oh, just when it is getting sweet, huh? Let's see. Let's see if we can just finish this chapter. We'll pull episodes. Time is ended. But read verse 20 because I need you to understand the power behind Ishmael. Read.
And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly.
Read.
12 princes shall he beget.
Read.
And I will make him a great nation.
Now, it mentions 12 princes. That's not by accident. Because the bloodline of that, they will be so exponential in terms of their wealth that all of what they are accumulating in terms of their great wealth will be the accumulation for his brother in the tribe of Israel. And so all of the oil that they have, they're just watching over it until we get in our place. All of the gold and silver that they have, they're just watching over it until we get in place. Because remember, Hagar had to bow before Sarah, and the child was in her, had to bow also. And that's why they can't escape it. Their obeisance to us is already done through their forefathers. Your forefather bowed before us. He did not bow. Yes, he bowed when he was in the womb of his mother. And it was to us. And therefore today, when we step into our world in that kingdom age, what the scripture says, that the nations, the forces of the nations will be brought to the kingdom from near and far. But yes, sir, you had your hand up. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So that's why when you go to the Middle East, they don't have no king, they all have no princes.
Yes, they have just princes. They have emirs. They have, or I should correctly pronounce it, emirs. They also have sultans, and there's another name that escapes me right now.
I've never heard of a king.
No, they don't use it.
Like
Emir, and they have sultans, and there's another name. It's escaped me for some strange reason. It was on the tip of my tongue, and I should have just said it. But anyway, those are the types of hierarchy of royalty that they have. And they are exceedingly a great and rich bloodline. And they keep their laws. They keep their laws. When we were over there, you know how white people are. Say yes.
Yes. Yes.
They went over there and they were walking out of the hotel because remember they've got their own beach, so they're walking out of the hotel and wearing, and you know the swimsuits, not the swimsuits. They know they're not wholesome swimsuits, and they're walking out, and the police would say, blowing their whistle. Get back in. Get back. Get your narrow. Get back in. And they had to get back into the hotel. And they had to put something on to come out onto the streets. You don't have them walking around scantily like in other nations. I mean, good Lord, you just got to go to Florida. And I remember my wife and I were in Florida some time ago, and I remember there were some sisters down there wearing things that should not be worn. A brother is trying to keep himself sanctified. Can't be sanctified because everywhere you look, and they're running and carrying on, and you can't run when you're dressed that way. I don't know if to paint the picture. I think you know what I mean. Some on roller skates. Please don't be doing that. But if those women, and it wasn't just our sisters, but here's the thing: our women are built different. You know, Esau was there as well. Esau was the same thing, but if those same women was over there in Abu Dhabi or over in Dubai, they would have arrested them. You cannot come out in the streets like that. They won't allow it. And they stick by their law. And they don't let America come in and say, don't you need to give them the freedom for them to do what they want? Have you not seen what America has been doing, going to the African countries, saying, you know, you've got to give these men who are LBGT, WXYZ, that they need to have freedom to express themselves? And the African president said, no, we don't believe in that. That's not part of our policy. He said, look, American policy, you do what you want. But over here, this is our policy. We do what we need to do.
That's right.
And the woman said, so do you not like homosexuality? He said, it's disgusting. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Yes, he said, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
He said, what did they do? I mean, when they come together, what did they do? He said, it hasn't been proven. I know you were trying to prove it, that they were born like that, but it hasn't been proven. That's what he said. So just the finishes.
Verse 21. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac,
Go on.
which Sarah shall bear unto thee at the set time.
At the what?
At this set time.
At the set time. So remember that word. Underline it, highlight it, set time. The Most High has a set time for everything. We are in a set time. The clock is ticking. And we are less than an hour from the close of an age. We are less than that, according to the scriptures. Read 22.
Verse 22. And he left off talking with him,
Read.
and Yahweh went up from Abraham.
Read.
And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were brought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house,
Read.
and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin.
And that is why all Arabs are circumcised like Israel. That's why the Arabs, when they took us into slavery, they knew how to describe and to recognize who we were. The Africans or the Hamites do not circumcise. Only we do that. And there's a teaching in that, but we're too late to cover that. But read.
In the selfsame day as Yahweh had said unto him.
Read.
And Abraham was 90 years and old and 9.
He was what?
90 years old and 9.
Read.
When he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
Read.
And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin.
Read.
In the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son.
Read.
And all the men of his house, born in the house, and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him.
This is now the law coming into fruition and as the scripture puts it, into establishment. Because remember, the law had ceased because they went into idolatry under the kingship of Nimrod, who took them into what we have today as Catholicism. Because the Roman Catholic, those in the higher ups know that the great-great-grandfather of Catholicism is a black man by the name of Nimrod. It comes from him. He is a Hamite. Now, them apples. All right, we're going to stop there, and we will revisit verse 18 on next week. To the Most High be the glory. All right, to the Most High be the glory. We give him praise. That very weak and very remember, we do it unto the Most High, not unto myself. So to those of you, we hope that this has been edifying to your spirit. I hope we have broken down some of the things that you might have been misled with in times past. And we hope that this teaching continues to elevate and to uplift your mind and your thinking, that you recognize of a surety who you are and the kingdom possession that you will one day possess. I pray that you continue to tune in each week. Please like, subscribe, share comments, give us a thumbs up, and whatever else you know to do, please go ahead and do it. All right? We look forward to seeing you again on the Sabbath. And to those of our brothers who are in the Africas who will see this on the morrow, I pray that the Most High continues to guide you and to comfort you. And our brothers in the UK who will see this also on the morrow, again, Barakatah Yahweh Ba'ashem Mashiach to you. And to our brothers over in Detroit, the brothers in Dallas, Texas, or brothers in Florida, in the Californias, and the brothers on the utmost part that I missed out in terms of calling you. I want to say, the Lord bless you and keep you and may continue to smile upon you. Shalom.
Shalom.